being, if I'm correct.
We're going to talk about the beings, yes, who have philosophy and an understanding of the universe, which I think is correct. So I think it's very important. And Annette is one of the two people who have the contact. And I think the original, and welcome Annette to our discussion here today. We've had a couple of discussions before. I've always enjoyed the discussions we've had. We've gone through your drawings. So to give people background, maybe you can give the little background about who the beings are. I think it's very important. And I contacted you for one specific thing that you had put out, but if you can go and give a little bit of background to maybe Nicole as to the story of the beings and how they came, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so it's actually 4 years on the 18th, which is in a couple of days' time. And I actually looked, Grant, I don't know if you're aware of this, but each time we've had an interview, it's in October.
Wow.
Which has been the same rotation. I don't know what the format is there, but there's lots of change apparently in October, according to the beings. It's a big energy change. So really what happened is a friend of mine one morning put up a post on her Facebook page, and it had a picture of a being, like an alien is the only way to describe it, with an enormous head and a small body. And she put the caption, "Humans, are you ready?" And I saw it and I was just snapped straight onto it. So I phoned her and asked if I could go around that evening. And she said that her alien family had turned up a couple of days prior to that. And they were, they were communicating to her through, well, at that time, we would say telepathically. We didn't have any other words for it. So she was saying they were talking, I could hear them in my mind, but they haven't got a mouth, so they're not speaking. And that had gone on for about 48 hours. And then I went round there and they came through straight away. They came into the front room, and Zoe was, when I'm talking now, when I talk now, it's been 4 years now, and I can talk about it quite calmly. But Grant will remember when I first spoke to him, I probably wasn't quite so calm. Right, and because it had just been quite I think the first time I spoke to Grant, it's only maybe been a year and a half since I'd had the first initial contact, and I was still in the transition of absolute shock, really, of what I was taking in and how I was feeling. And it's taken a long time to get to the point where I am now. But initially the contact started for 3 months, and it was full on for 3 months. So in that 3 months, sometimes 24 hours a day, they would be talking to us, and they would be saying things to Zoe, and they would say things to me separately because we don't live together. And then we'd come together and they would have said the same word for word. And they were starting this process of a conversation, really, sort of now, where I am now, when I look at the conversations that I had 4 years ago, now they've taken them to the next level. They were like, those were the initial first conversations, and they were big ones. They were like, I think in the first conversation when they started to talk, they first after getting my attention by telling me about myself and telling Zoe about herself, things that neither of us knew about each other. They went straight into, I remember the first thing they said was, "Haven't you had enough yet?" to me, which I didn't really understand. And then they said, they went straight on to death straight away in the first hour's conversation. And they spoke about, and they said, "What do you humans think happens when you pick a flower?" And we sort of said, "It dies." They said, "No, nothing dies. Energy can't die. It can only change form." And they spoke about multi-dimensions. It was in the first hour of contact, because I remember driving home feeling like utter shock. I didn't know what to think. And then over the next 3 months, that progressed. So it was a relationship that I was forming, and it was, oh God, when I think about it, how it was then to how it is now, it was just mind-boggling at that time. So there was lots of things getting explained. They spoke about multi-dimensions. They spoke about how humans can heal themselves. They spoke about other beings. human contracts. They spoke about a lot of things in that first 3 months. And then over the next year, when I started talking about them, it became deeper and deeper and deeper, and until where we are today. So there's been lots of things. You'll have to pinpoint, because as Grant knows, there's so many subjects. It's easier if you say, what did they say about that? And then
I completely
there's a
understand
lot.
that. I know. And I think that's what even some people don't realize. Even being a researcher, they come to you and they're like, oh, what do you know about this? And you're like, oh, actually, I don't know. I have to dive into that too. You know, this is such a broad community, and we all do kind of fine tune it to our personal needs. You know, we take the paths where the rabbit holes lead us, I guess, if that's, or the synchronicities. So,
well, they would have said it, they termed it as a contract.
yeah.
So they said every human has a contract.
Right.
So, and this is where we go. This is where I used to, with Grant, we always say we're going down this rabbit hole, because there are fundamental building blocks that we have to address before we can go into the point where we're at there, because the building blocks have to be in place, because there are some things that have to, if you don't get the core of it, the rest of it that you build up on it is just going to be a bit,
Right.
you know. So
We often talk about lessons. You know, Grant has talked about several lessons where he's taken on a lesson like in this journey, and other experiencers talk about that as well. And you kind of repeat the lessons. Even if you get it at one point, you often get a reminder later as well. Do you experience something like that, or you and Zoe together? When I kind of imagine you guys going through this, and then like you said, this was happening over 3 months, you guys coming, you know, back together and going through it over and over again to try to process it through every angle.
There was no time for that. There was no time for
Kind of
progress.
new.
No, not in the first 3 months, because both of us were in a kind of, well, I would have worded it as shock, but since then the beings have told it as something else. They've described it as it's more multidimensional, and it's you as an energy evolving, and even though we're in this realm, and I'm even realm with my family, and I see them on a day-to-day, we're not in the same reality, and people they're like overflays of it, and it's gone deeper and it's gone deeper and it's gone deeper. So the first 3 months of Zoe and I going through this, we were like 2 school kids. We couldn't believe it. We were just like completely in shock all the time. So literally like, and the beings didn't give us time to really even go into any one conversation. It was like questions. They'd say, what do you think about this? What do you feel about that? What do you think happens if this happens? And those might be 3 questions that we'd have, and then we'd go away and think about it, and then we'd come back and they'd say, and we used to get things wrong. Like when I remember once they were speaking about melanoma, and I was saying to Zoe over the phone, I said, oh, I wonder how humans have, you know, I wonder how and why we've got different color skin. I bet it, you know, it must be to do with the melanoma. And they came in at that point and just, well, Zoe was translating. So they came in, she went, they're here, and they're saying, no, you've got it wrong. And they said, but at that point, they were trying to get us onto the, I don't speak about energy. I don't speak about frequencies. I didn't speak about consciousness. I didn't speak about any of those sort of subjects. That is a whole new ball game to me and Zoe, both of us. The things that they said to us were new concepts for me. I might have heard about it, but my attention hadn't really gone on to it. I was definitely into aliens because my dad would been into aliens. So I was well aware of the word aliens, and I was well aware of what we'd class, but I wouldn't have put consciousness in the same sentence as aliens. I wasn't at that level. So what they were saying to us in the first 3 months was at such a pace that it wasn't until even now that I'm going into conversations that, or questions that they've asked, and I see it from a more grown perspective. So where they might have said a very simple statement before, like one of the statements, well, it's not a simple statement. One time they said that it was like a download, and it's not just the words, it's like words, I'm there, it's like a film, I'm in it, I'm in that consciousness. And they were talking about this multi-dimensions, but they showed it to me and they just said it's constantly, it's happening all the time. You can't see it, but it's this multi-dimensional levels. And then now that's progressed to, that was the basics. And now it's progressed to how that works. They keep going back over the same things, but they've been adding more to it, more substance to it. Although it's a repeat of what they kept saying, there is definitely more coming in and more coming in. But the bottom line, the fundamentals that I always say was that they said there is only consciousness. Everything dwells within conscious.
Let me ask a question related to that, and to clarify, because you mentioned this thing about the building blocks. Before this interview, this will maybe shock you. Before the interview, I was sitting across the street on a park bench, and I was given the same idea. So I was thinking about it, and then you brought up the thing about the building blocks. And the idea that I was given, and I think you're repeating it, is the fact that we sort of think the world is like a puzzle, and we've got one piece of the puzzle to put in. And they're basically coming in and saying, no, all the building blocks are wrong. The reason that you've got the anomalies is you got this wrong, you got that wrong, you got this wrong, you got that wrong. Yeah. And they're sort of starting from scratch and saying, no, that's not how it works. And it was kind of weird that you would bring that up. So this whole idea, even the idea of the alien, because I remember I asked Nicole, because Zoe had come to me at one point and said that the beings wanted to talk to me, and they talked about the fact they wanted to do a book. So I said, well, maybe we could actually do the book, and we just have a thing where we get all these subjects, and then we just address them directly, or you guys answer the questions, and just go through all the different subjects and exactly what did they say. And the one question I think that Nicole's 5-year-old son, who's like an inventor guy, he's very creative, very aware. One of the questions he had was thing about the aliens. And I remember there was an expression, correct me if I'm wrong, where they said, we're from here, we've always been from here, you're the visitor, and if you want us to be aliens, we can be aliens and take care of our planet, but no. And so explain this idea of who they actually are, because people will say, you know, what planet are they from and this sort of stuff. And I think that's the first thing that we've got to clarify, is who these beings actually are.
Okay, it's really funny, we were talking about this yesterday as well, me and my friends. Because it's a fundamental. So the beings created this illusion, and we, the humans, which they do not see as anything other than another creation, like a flower or a plant or a stone. To them, that's how they see humans, are within this illusion. But the illusion, or the creator or creators, are the beings. And they say they find it, they said that, or they didn't at the beginning, this is something they've, you know, my relationship with them has grown. So at the beginning, what I was told is what I could take and what I could get my head around. And then a bit more, it went a bit deeper and a bit deeper. And then a bit more, it went a bit deeper and a bit deeper. And that's how it seems to be rolling. So, but they had always said that they were the creators. From the very beginning, they said, if you like, we are what you would call the essence of God. But in the early stages, I found that really hard to tell people, because I'm talking about aliens to a lot of people, and now I'm flipping it, and they're all saying, oh, you're going all spiritual on us, you know, and now you're talking about God. But how it is now, and how I sit now when I'm trying to, like, if I'm explaining it as I am today, right this second, is that we are in a creation, and the creation is the creation of the beings. Yeah. And they are thousands. And it made me laugh yesterday, because we had a meeting, a little gathering yesterday, and they reinserted a certain message, and I had forgotten it, although I hadn't forgotten it. But they said, remember, there are millions and billions of beings. Now, they are all talking to humans right now for this shift. Now, I remember the conversation they had with me way back at the beginning, when we'd asked them why they had turned up, why they were showing now. And they said it was time. And they said humans were ready, and that this was something that we'd all agreed in consciousness, every single person that's taking, you know, here now, if you're here now, then your time is for this. This is it. This is what we've all agreed on. And they said that, I've gone, oh, it's gone. The time, yeah, they said that that now was the time. Oh, I hate when that happens, because it's like something else comes in and it starts coming down and I forget what I was trying to say in the first place. Right, so it's a creation that they've created that, oh no, that's it. They said that they had, there's many beings that are waiting, and they're not just waiting. They said that the reason why we're going through this shift is that they said not only you humans have had enough of these current realities, but lots of beings have had enough of these current realities. And I didn't understand that back then. And I understood it to be a connection, but I didn't really understand it. Whereas now I see it as a much deeper level, where they're always talking to us. They're always saying that they connect to us. They feel emotion through us. They can tap in and out of humans. And they're saying what we're really evolving now is these realities that we're in now, although they will still remain, there's like overlays. There's going to be overlays of new realities that are coming in, which it's like a shift. So we've shifted since 2017, and we're constantly shifting now. But the bottom line is, when we say they're visitors, they're not the visitors. We are the visitors. And the word alien is not really the right word to use, because it implies that they're new to us, and there was something we don't really know about. But it's completely the opposite of that. They've been around forever. They've said, I mean, they had conversations with us where they said they've showed us anything and anything you could, as a humans, you want to experience. So they've been angels, they've been entities. They said they've come as aliens. And they said to me personally, but in your reality, you wanted to experience us as beings. So we've come as this entity of beings, but we are all of those things. Wow. So it's quite deep.
Let me ask another question. In terms of, did they say why they had picked you and Zoe to do this? Well, is that part of the contract, or? Yeah,
they said they didn't pick us. It was we chose to do it. We chose to be in it together. They said Zoe chose to see them. I chose not to see them. I chose to have that relationship grow in the other way. It was all planned. Everything was planned. I don't query that at all. Every day, I know that. I know that. And we call the higher self, and I lose people when I say this now, but, you know, when the beings came, we referred to the beings as our higher self. Yeah. You know, that's who your higher self is. It's a connection to these beings. And the beings are waiting at this moment for this shift to happen so that they can interact with the humans that are going to be experiencing the shift, if you see what I mean, that are these enlightenments, these new DNA, these star children that we're all talking about. They are really where we're going with this. I did actually something to tell you, Grant, because I don't know if do you remember the conversation we had once about self-healing?
Yeah.
Right, so I had a question the other day with the beings, and it got brought up and I didn't have an answer to it. And I think it might have been, it's only just been shown. So I thought I'd share it with you because it might relate to one of the questions from previous interviews. But I remember saying that we were moving to this time where there is going to be no medicine, no money, not in the way that we experience it now. I don't know when that's coming, but it's coming. And I remember thinking, well, what happens if you break your leg then? I mean, how if you break your leg, how are you going to heal if there's no hospitals or things like that? How will that happen? And they answered that only recently by showing me that it's like a puff pastry. It's like layers and layers of these realities. And they said some realities, when they pass and they go to this next reality, they won't have broken legs, because that's only in this reality we experience things like that. In these other realities, they won't need things to, because they won't be doing that sort of thing. That's connected to this time and this reality and these cycles. So, and that was quite big for me, because I couldn't get my head around. I was thinking at these realities at where we are today. But what the beings are saying is what's coming in is going to be completely different. It's going to be something that we haven't even got a written history of in today.
Let me ask one more question, then I'll put it back to Nicole, because I'm sure she's got lots of questions here. When I first was talking to you, it was sort of, or when you first had the encounter with Zoe, it was Zoe that was having the contact and you were asking questions. Are you now part of this? Can you actually now directly interact without Zoe to them?
Yeah, it's gone backwards. It hasn't gone forwards on that, because that was the initial growth. For 3 months, I relied on Zoe really heavily, asking her, please ask the beings this, please ask the beings that. And I mean, constantly. And but she was in the middle of that. They would come back with an answer. Then I'd go back and ask another question and they'd come back with another answer. But while that was happening, they were also giving me downloads, which I would probably not have believed, or I would have thought it was just my own imagination coming up because I didn't understand it. But the fact that Zoe was getting the same download. So we'd have the same things said to us word for word. So that then gave me, then that was shown to me that that can happen. You don't need to see us for that to happen. But that was part of my contract, because I also know that not everybody, masses and most people, really can't take seeing a being or an alien or any entity in their life. Yeah. There's only a few people that could really, really take that on board. It's my contact, the way I had it, was so overwhelming, and I didn't see them. They had fear in it, it had shock in it, it had everything in it that if I had actually saw them standing in front of me, I think I would actually had a heart attack and probably popped on my clogs. I knew I couldn't see them. And even when people, my sister and friends of me at the early stages kept saying, don't you want to see them? Why don't you want to see them? The intensity of the energy that I was experiencing in those first 3 months of communicating with them constantly, that level of energy was well enough. I couldn't even contain that. I was shaking. I was just, it was just, so I think that me not seeing them and then showing me how it works, how they communicate with humans and how that works, that's there for most people won't see them. It's getting your head round and listening to the fact that voice you hear. In fact, I read a message today from the beings on one of the first pages that we opened up from, and it said, the voices in your minds are not you! !
That's something we've heard people described often. It's like they know their own voice in their head, their own running narrative. And when they receive these downloads of information, sometimes they come with visions, sometimes it's just a voice in their head. And I think sometimes it's even a booming voice, like a uninhabited voice, which is more, people relay that on the paranormal side, but we know it's all connected.
I did hear a voice out external to myself, which is nothing's external now, but in my contract. Right. In the first 3 months, not only did I have that going on with messages with the beings and something else, I had unusual things happening to me personally. So I heard a woman's voice one night telling me to sleep, with a very extreme weird feeling going through my body, as if someone put me down to sleep for an operation, and then gone. I had 3 very vivid dreams where I was up in an elevator, up high. And this is in the early days when I was going, oh, they're aliens. And my friend was going to me, oh, maybe you'll see a UFO. But I knew that I could ask them about that, because I just said, I'm speaking to them. I don't think I'm going to see a UFO. I could ask them about UFOs because I'm speaking to them. So I don't need to see lights and things like that. They've got my attention. I'm already in that loop talking to them. But they did explain that they come to, so orbs, lights, things like that are just that person. It's like a deal. It's like a deal with the beings. So the beings are going to say, right, when you wake up, when you've been born in this game, I call it a game show now, because I say we're all in this game show, and some of us might do this and that. Some of us pass in certain ways, and we should literally look at it and say, oh, that's how you've chosen to pass. Okay, I'll see you soon. Right? It's literally like that, because they're not here visually in front of us right now, but they can't go anywhere because we're all in the pot together. So it's just that we can't actually see them in front of us no more.
I've been starting to equate it almost with these escape room games that
There you
people
go.
are starting to play. And it's like, you've made your own escape room. And no matter how long it takes you to get out of this box, you set your own traps up and you set your own way through. And that's how I'm starting to look at this journey. And I know in the past I've called it triggers, but and I also refer to it as, you find your rabbit hole and it leads you to another one. But have you experienced like the affirmations or the synchronicities along the way that have given you that like confidence that you're on the right path?
Yeah, but not until after the beings had come, because I would never have noticed them before.
Right.
I would have always said things like, oh, I don't believe in coincidences. And I was that sort of person that would have said things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't have gone as far as to say, you chose your contract and you're gonna you're literally playing the lead role in your own story and everybody else is extras. Mm-hmm. And we're all, the beings had, actually, it's leading on to something that the beings were speaking about again quite recently, and they have been speaking. So some of the stuff that they has been speaking about for 4 years would be, there is no death. It's all an illusion. It's a multi-dimensional universe. Time, they said there is no time. It's man-made. They said you think you go from this point to that point and you're going in some sort of straight line. And they said, and that's how you think about death as well. They said you think death is this, you die, even to the point where recycling, that's not the right word, is it? Reincarnation, yeah. Where they say, you think it's you live and you die and you live and you die, and you think it's this straight line again, this constant line of start and finish, where they said that is not the case. It's not like that. And when they were explaining that once, they said to Zoe and I once, they went, I'll never forget this, and I know Grant has heard me say this before, but they literally said, if you like, this is midway through a conversation with them, they said, if you like humans, you are already dead. And I remember me and Zoe were like, what? And they said, because death is just another form of consciousness, of growth. You think you are in this point now. And they were going, but you're not here. You think you're here, but you're not here. You're somewhere else and you're portraying this here just to experience it. And they also used to say that humans have got very fleshy, and said humans have got very fleshy over the billions of years. And they said it happens like that. And it's, it's part of the story of what we're, we've come to experience, but we forget. And they said it happens like that all the time. It's not the first time. It's happened over billions of years. And they said you kind of forget, and then we show up and we put you back on track. But the track is not for humans per se, because this is a oneness we're speaking about. Yeah. So if the beings, as I believe from my conversations with them, are tuning in with us, if you like, tuning in, our higher self is within them, then they experience with us, through us, then they've had enough. That explains why they kept saying they've had enough. They've had enough. It's not just not humans that have had enough. These beings have had enough of these realities. So you can see where we're evolving together. And they did say that there's going to be a time in the future where the beings are going to be walking, interacting. I mean, they are interacting already with lots of humans. And I know that. Even some of the stuff I remember a couple of years ago, somebody wrote, oh no, I'm not really into NASA and the Pentagon, and I'm not going to lie, because of my dyslexia, I can't read, so I don't read those. I might scan if it's got a picture, but it hasn't got the capacity to take it all in. As soon as I hit a big word, that's it, I've lost my attention. But my dad was into it all, and when they explained that, I remember asking them once if they were here. I said, are you here? Have you been to the Pentagon? Are you talking to military? Are you doing that? And I asked it, and I got the answer back more or less like a laughter almost, first of all, as if, of course we are. Why wouldn't be? Why wouldn't be? Why would you think it's only just a few people that are separately going? There's lots of people interacting with us. There's loads, and for a long time. And They did say that certain humans that know things are keeping it from other humans as well.
Yeah.
They've said that. They said it on medical stuff. They said there are humans that know things that are keeping it from you, but it's going to come out. And they were saying that in terms of medicines and things like that, because they said, does humans know that, because they didn't call medicine or the injection or the jab or anything like that. They just used to call it fluid. They said they'd call tears fluid. They would call the ocean fluid. They'd call water fluid, and they called injections fluid. And if humans want to have fluid, that's fine. It's all about the intention, because to them, it's all an illusion anyway. And fluid's fluid. And they said that what you're not being told is that all medicines only stay in the body for a period of time. And they said, so it doesn't matter if you have the injection, because we're having a conversation at the time, a gathering, and people were asking about the getting injection or not getting injection. The beings were saying, it's up to you. It's your, you know, it's fluid. That's what they said. If humans choose to have fluid injected into them, that's fine. And it's just the way they word things always make me laugh, because they're so matter of fact about everything. And they just said that, and then they said, does humans know that certain medicines only stay in your body a period of time? Like some will stay in hours, some will stay in days, and some will stay in weeks. And they said, so even if you've had an immunity injection or an injection of any kind, they said, it will only stay in your body a period of time. Your body is an organism that is working to flush out anything. It will flush anything out. It will flush the bad, the good, whatever we class as bad or good. The whole lot gets flushed out. And that's what they kept saying. It gets flushed out. It gets flushed out. Nothing stays in your body. So therefore, what you are really experiencing in any illness is the experience. And then it made me think about placebo, really. How, you know, like over time people talk about placebo, because the beings are basically saying you might take it, but it comes straight out your body. And it's not that. If you're going to experience something, you're going to experience it, regardless of what you do or don't put, or they say if you put liquid in your body or not, is their word for all that. So I found that very interesting. They said there's going to be lots of shifts coming up.
Of this massive placebo scale. And also, like you had said before, about self-healing and intent, you know, because you are on all levels, you know, if we believe we're making this reality as we go, it is that sort of collective intent. And
intention. They've been really talking about intention for about the last 6-7 weeks. I know I can't last 6-7 weeks. Every time I say things to do with time, I get like a flag. It's like there's a little being going, no time, no time. So at the back of my mind, it just flags up. But to have a normal conversation, yeah, they've been talking about intention, because intention is your energy. It's your intention. It's in that energy. So they always say the intention far weighs the actual action. If you see what I mean. The action's the small part of it. It's the intention behind the action that is the key.
Right. And this is where it spins off into high philosophy, you know, of battles between good and evil. Is there good without bad? You know, those sort of
the yin and yang. And the beings, and that's another thing they used to say. They used to find it, and it's the way we've been programmed. So they said, for anybody to have an experience, if we're here just to experience, right, so from the experience, we get emotion. And that's the one thing. The other thing they kept saying, the beings, they said, everything's so simple, you've just made it really overcomplicated. And they said that you're just here to experience emotion.
Right.
And they said, and you need this like a form to be able to put that into practice. And so with the yin and the yang, I can give you a good, because there was a good a way to explain that. They gave me a good example just this summer gone. I think it was during lockdown, actually, maybe last summer. So I was reading on the paper that a surfer had gone out, really bad weather, high tides, you know, yellow warning, no one go and leave their house, don't go anywhere near the coast, it's going to wash you up and, you know, take you out. And some surfers decided to go out, right, as you do when you're a teenager. So off they went, and it was a massive thing in the paper saying these surfers, the lifeguards had to get called, and they're obviously COVID, they weren't even around, they were to come out their house, and it was a big story, right? How they made it down the beach and everything, and absolute slating. I mean, how can these people be that stupid? How can they do such a thing? Da-di-da-di-da, all that. And I was reading it, and then I sort of, the beings sort of come into my consciousness as I was reading it, and they started picking it apart, and they just sort of more or less said, that's the yin and yang. Because for that experience, for that actual experience to happen, right, they had to go out, for the lifeguard, for his job and his reality, for him to have his reality and come in. And that is the yin and yang. But you choose to put one person as a bad person and one person as a good person, where the whole thing should be viewed as an experience of growth and learning. But we're not there yet because we still have those, but they're putting the suggestion in. That's what they're saying. So they always used to say to us things like, they always say to us things like this. They say to us, what do you humans think happens when you murder someone? They said, how do you think, how would you feel to be the mother of a murderer? They say things like that to us. It's not like really like easygoing conversations. They were like, how do you feel to be the mother of a murderer? And would you feel so much bliss if you were in jail? That's one thing they said to us. Would you feel, do you really understand it? Would you feel like you do now? If you were in jail, would you still have that? Do you understand everything's an experience? They drum on, not drum on, but that is where they're going. But I realize now that it's like pebbles in ocean. So I'm having my conversation with me and Zoe, or me separately, or because now they channel straight down. But I still sometimes go for confirmation. I'm not going to lie. I still sometimes go, if it's a big one, I will go to Zoe and I'll say, I don't so much say, I don't actually have to say to her no more, have you heard from the beings? Because if it's a big one, they know I'm going to go to her and they'll be waiting for me. So, or she'll have something for me straight away. She'll say, oh, funny you just asked that. This is what they were speaking about last night. And it will be the answer, or it'll be confirmation of what they've given me, they've given her. That's normally how it rolls, but that's normally on something really big. Last night I had a conversation with the beings, and I thought it was quite an interesting one, because they reminded me, and they just said that I was talking to them about portals. I don't know why, something came up. I was driving down this road. It's been a road that I'd always had experiences and downloads on, and I said to them as I was driving around it last night, oh, this is the road I normally have experiences and downloads on. And I remember thinking that, and then I remember thinking, I wonder if it's a portal in this road. I wonder if this is a portal road. And they came in at that point exactly on the same corner, even though I didn't even think to ask. I thought, actually, you did came on the same bloody corner again. And they said, they said the portal is in the human. The human does not walk into a portal. The portal is already in that human. And that's what they said.
Wow.
And I had to sit back and I thought, of course it is. If we're in our own realities, that's why some people see things and other people don't experience that thing. And some people will be in an area of a portal, and there might be a few people in that, and other people walk through it and don't sense anything at all, nothing at all. So they said the portal is in with the human. So that's in their reality, because we are all in consciousness and there is nothing really real. That's exactly. It's quite deep.
It's again, it's almost like this idea. It's a sort of a steep hill to climb, because basically what they're doing is what they told me is what I hear you're saying is they said to me, not only you think you understand what's going on, you haven't got a clue. Oh, in fact, everything that you think is exactly the opposite of what you think it is. And
they did say that. The opposite, look at the opposite. They used to say that to me in the first 2 years. They'd always say to me, look at the opposite, look at the opposite, look at the, that was the first part of the, not the training, but the contact, if you like. If I was watching something on the telly or I'd have a thought, the thought would come straight in, look at the opposite, go to the opposite, look at the opposite. And so you're quite right with that. That's how that first that's how I started to be able to sort of shift. But we're all in this reality together, yet we're all on such different planes. There is no plane. We think it's like this Earth's plane, and it's so not like that. And that's what's changed. I find it really exciting as well, because they said that you know, remember that, I don't know if you remember me talking about oxytocin, which is the love hormone.
Okay.
And they said that when humans, they said humans will still soon start producing more oxytocin.
Yeah.
And they said, and as that happens, the DNA will all be changing. So we're going to have these people that are going to be like our children, our grandchildren are going to be completely, they're ready for it. They're already ready for what's coming. It's like we were ready, we've done our bit, the people before us had the war, the people, we're all ready for whatever experiences we've got to take in our generation to get us to the next point. And we are the generation of shift and change. And we have all, even though people won't like to hear it, but we've actually all signed the dot to say that we wanted to be here for this.
Yeah, I think that was the original question I asked. You put a posting, and that's this idea that I guess is shocking to some people, that when you come in, you wrote the play already, you wrote the script, and you're just living it out. Whereas people think we're a victim and there's these things happening to us and stuff like that. And so go a little bit into that, this idea of the soul contract and the fact that it's all sort of we're in control of this thing, and that it's a lot less random than we think it is.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, one day that happened for me per se was an experience that I had. But before the experience, before I had the experience, the beings had sent me about 4 or 5 messages warning me of the experience. It's just that I hadn't checked the messages. So I went through the day, had the experience, went back to them afterwards. So so there is a foresight to it. So in the contract, they basically kept saying to me, keep grounded, remember this is an illusion, something you chose to experience. That's their bottom line all the way through it with everybody. That is what it is. And what the picture you was talking about is one that I'd put up of, I wrote the words, you've written your script before you've come.
Yeah.
And your free will is how you perceive those interactions and those things that you're going to experience. That's your free will. And also every angle's covered, because if you wake up one day and think, like I used to think, well, you might think I know what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to do that now. I've changed my mind, I'm going to do this. But everything's covered. Everything's covered. And the only way I can describe that is that when we go to sleep, because they said they talk to us in daydreams, deep sleep, definitely daydreams, deep sleep and consciousness. But when we sleep, do people really think about where we go when we sleep and what happens when we sleep and why do we sleep? Why do we sleep? Why, those sort of fundamental questions I used to think about as a child, and they have been sort of answered now, where they said that it's in sleep is the time where we can visit all those dimensions. So the past, the future, because there is no past and future, they're all in the mixing bowl together. So in sleep is the time that the consciousness is allowed to move around, and well, it moves anyway, but it definitely moves around in sleep, and it can tap into those fields. And one of my ones is for people that think they have a brainwave or an imagination or that moment, or just had this fantastic thought.
Yeah.
That is your thought. You've thought that thought before. You've probably thought that thought in another dimension, and you're just bringing it into this dimension. It's nothing new that you haven't thought of before. So I read another comment that the beings had said, and they said, every thought that you have in your mind comes from action already done or told.
Wow. I got to pop in there, because that's what I got the idea, and whether I got it from the field or whatever, was that when you get those aha moments, it's, oh yeah, it's like you were shown it before and you go, oh yeah, now I remember. And you think it's a new thing that popped into your head, but it's just the realization that you read it before and it's all in there, and it's just now it's entering your consciousn's. So to them, everything is like consciousness, everything is within yourself. Like when you die, you go within yourself. When you have out of body experience, you go within yourself. It's all almost like what Deepak Chopra would say, everything is an activity inside consciousness. Would that sum up what they're saying? Yeah.
Yeah. Basically,
wow.
That is the bottom line. And there's something else you were saying there, and it was triggering a thought of what they were saying the other day. It'll come when you talk back, it'll come back, and it was something to do with every thought from your mind comes from, no, it wasn't that, it was something else. When you carry on talking, it'll come in, because I did a lot of reading before tonight, because to be fair, I haven't actually spoken. After the last time I spoke to you, I've had some quiet period, because I went on, I don't even know what I went on. I just, just started doing interviews. I couldn't stop talking about it. And then I went a really quiet phase, a really, really quiet one. And I do remember you said something to me, and it was in one of maybe the first or second interview, Grant, and you said to me, you said, some people have these moments and they forget it all.
Yeah. And,
you've got it and you still got it. And I remember thinking, no, I'll never forget it. I'm in it. I'm experiencing it. And I actually asked to forget it last summer. I just needed time out. And I remember in my mind thinking, I want to watch the telly and just watch the telly and not think about, that means this, and the beings come in and do that, and this means this, and that means that, because that's how it's been for literally 3.5 years. It has been a roller coaster of constant. And I just thought, okay, I can't carry on like this. I can't physically carry on like this. I need some time out, basically. And I remember asking the beings for some time out, and it literally I started to see it. I started to think about them less, think about the conversations less. And it became, until the point where I started, no, I don't want no time out no more. I want it all back. I want it to come back. I don't like it without it. But what made me laugh is I must have said that before, because I remember when the beings first came up, they came in October. And I remember the first Christmas was the first Christmas that I'd lost my dad. And so the family were going to be together. Yeah. And I had been on the missing list, writing like a lunatic since I met the beings, because they were giving me so much information. I was writing all the conversations down, and I felt like I had to, what time it was, who said who, what to who, and who was present, and da-da-da. I mean, I was writing. I remember saying to Zoe, and it was about Christmas Eve, and I rang her up. I said, can you tell the beings, like, I need a break? Can you just tell them, like, I need a bit of a holiday. I need some time out. And she went, yeah, sure, yeah. I'll say it. And they didn't come in. I didn't get a message back. And then about an hour later, I got a message from Zoe, and it said, from the beings, how can you have a holiday from yourself? Exclamation mark.
Oh, that's awesome.
But didn't Zoe want a timeout as well? Didn't she?
Yeah, we did. Well, what happened after the initial 3 months, and it must have been exhausting for her, because I was asking her questions. I mean, I was asking her things. I asked about the Anunnaki. I asked about everything that I was interested in, and anything that I thought my dad was interested in. I asked all those questions, and she patiently was on, so I'd say, can you ask the beings this? Da, 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 da. And then maybe an hour later, I'd get a message back. This is from the beings. Or sometimes the beings would be in waiting for me. So she'd text me, and she'd say, have you got a question for the beings? And I would say, yeah, I have actually. And she went, they've been hanging around, and it's a really weird feeling. She went, they're waiting for you to ask the question so they can go. So I went, oh, sorry about that. And it was something to do with deja vu once, I remember. Can you ask them about deja vu? And then literally, bang, the answer's there. There was no minutes. And she said, oh, they've gone now. She said, it was such a weird feeling. She goes, I felt like they were hanging around waiting for you to ask the question so they could answer it before they could leave. And it was just, I mean, absolute, it's just amazing when I think back on it. It's amazing. But there's other people that are equally having these amazing experiences. So, and they're going to be coming more and more and more as the being said, beings are talking to humans all the time. If humans want to accept that is where it's coming from, that would be great, but probably they won't. Yeah. So it's going to take a long time before we emerge to the point where I'm talking. I mean, I can talk to you guys freely, but the people that I can talk to like this freely is very, very, very small. Yeah. And even the ones that think they're ready for it, if I start telling them that there's no history, there's no history. Now, being said to me the other day, and it was quite funny when they said it, they said, do you know why there's no history? How we explained it to you. And I went, and they showed it to me and said, because every thought you get now is in the now. So if we want to change history, we can change history quite easily, because the thought you'll get will be changed. I don't know if you understand that. So the download, so if we think, oh, Romans, da-di-da-di-da, you know, and that's our thought. That's my thought right now. So, and the beings are interacting with that thought. So if history needed to be changed, they can do it very, very easily by downloading us with a new history, if you like, until we all start thinking the new history is what we all start thinking. And it's taken a little while for them to explain that, because first of all, they just said there's no history, and they left it at that. And it's only over the last sort of 2 to 3 years where they've been explaining it more, to the point where the other day they gave it to me in a nutshell. They just said, well, every thought is in the now. And if we give you so history is in the now. So if history is in the now, we can make it as it goes along. It can be changed constantly. There is no set history. It's given to you. Your history has been given to you, and it can be changed. And I just thought that was really cool. And I think it will be changed. I really do think it will be changed. And I think it will be changed for about where we say 50, 60 years from now, their thought of our history is going to be different. It's going to be completely different. The changes I can see already happening. They're already changing history right in front of us. So that was pretty cool. That was quite a big one for people to swallow.
Go ahead, Nicole. And then I got one question.
Oh, I'm just kind of nodding along like, yes, that clicks with me. That clicks with me. But we have heard other experiencers describe, like, you know, whether you want to say it's the people that can call in craft, you know, there's something like the vibration, they know when it's going to be there, or there's experiencers that talk like I was able to tell orbs to go away. I'm like, just go away.
Yeah,
just don't freak out, my son. Just leave me alone right now. And it listened. Or I told one to come closer and it got in my face. Like, there are these different experiencer things that happen. And I love hearing you describe them. Like, I think that's important to share, like, with our audience at some point. Like, so many people watch and just don't even realize these little things that go on. So just continue, and I'll keep
especially
my head.
Because it's like a gentle knock on your door.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. It's a little gentle knock on the door.
Some of the artists we speak to talk about it as inspiration. You know, they know these downloads come as inspiration. And one lady we were speaking with recently was kind of pushing this consciousness boundary of co-created art. And I think that kind of falls in line with what you were saying, these layers, you know, and even with history, it's like we layer on these things. And if the collective kind of believes it, then we push it.
That's when they said there's no shape to Earth,
mm-hmm.
which Grant asked me once, where they said, where did they come from? Where did they come from? And I didn't have the answer then to him until they started speaking. No, we're here. We've always been here. They had said that, but it's been concreted. No, we created this, and we created you humans to play in it. So that's quite a big one. But
have they talked to you at all about
the artists?
Have they talked to you at all about technology and maybe what humans think ET technology is, and what the reality of what that is? Like, we all think it, or we all know it's more than this nuts and bolts, like a craft in the sky, or like this green alien from Mars is going to land.
But if someone's contract is to experience that and find new tech, it will happen. It will happen, because it's like quantum physics. Everything's possible, and that's more or less what the beings are saying. You're in your own reality, and you're here to experience your own reality. And they used to think it's funny. They actually, what you said earlier, where you said this joint, which is very much what it's like. But the beings always used to say, they think it's funny how we all are in our own realities, but if one person says something, like they told me that we don't know how many humans are actually interacting in this illusion. They told me that. They went, you think you have a number for how many humans are interacting on this, but there could be one, or there could be billions. You don't know, because the person you're following is having their own reality. their personal reality, you've all jumped on board and said, oh yeah, that's it, we believe that, we believe what that person's saying, and that's what we're all on it. And they said that's how you tend to do everything. The individual person is not there, they follow, and they find that hilarious. They think it's really funny how one person does things and we all do it. They think that, and they said that the reason they're showing, and they're going to be showing more and more, is to remind humans of the choice. That's what they said, that you have a choice.
I think
they also said, which was one of our meeting groups, they said, what you think, if you said no, you didn't want to do something, they said you think it's all going to fall apart, but it wouldn't fall apart because you're not seeing the bigger picture of the involvement of the beings. So you're covered. They were always saying, we've got it covered, really, don't worry about it, we've kind of got it covered. So yeah, technology, I always think that my experience with the beings, how they've explained it, is that not to judge anybody that has any interaction with anything like that, because that's personal to the person. So, but, and the other ring of it is, when I hear about technology and where we're going and what we do, and I just think it's a complete waste of time and money, because the actual process of us being here is to experience. And the being said, what humans have lost is that they think they're here to, what do they say? You humans think you're in a race to achieve something or to win something. And while you're doing that, you're missing out on the whole process of what you're meant to be here for, which is just to experience. It's you that have brought this in, but it's part of it's not us like us. They also know that it's part of the bigger picture of what we've all wanted to experience. But we've experienced the same experiences for a long time, probably over 20,000 years. I don't know how long we've had paid taxes for. I remember once reading in Enoch that they were paying taxes in Enoch's time, and I don't know whenever that was in our multi-dimension, but they were paying, even though from Enoch's perception, he definitely had a UFO encounter in that period or whatever, but they were paying taxes, and they were told to come back, leave the UFO site and come back home to pay their taxes. And that was roughly about over 10,000 years ago. So nothing's changed from there. I thought if there was a massive UFO sighting now, everybody would go to the area. You'd have massive festivals on it. We wouldn't go back to work. People wouldn't pay their taxes. They would just like, that's it. Society as we know it, that's the end of it. But that is what the beings are saying is coming.
So you mentioned that
society like a crash, like we go, yeah. But they have said, and I don't want to scare people, but they've said it 3 times now, and they've only just been talking about this recently, is they said humans are going to think that human beings are going extinct, but they're not going extinct, they're changing form.
Yeah.
Now that I think indicates to, I think that is all the new people you have now. You have bisexual, you have this, you have that, you have all these genders that are coming out, but effectively from that will be that less humans were going to be born. Yeah. So you can sort of see where the picture's going with it. It's not going to be this big boom and we're all going to go, oh. It's going to be a process over, but humans put a lot of onto themselves being human. And the beings put that right out the window with us in about the first 2 or 3 weeks, because every time they'd mention, they said, does you humans know? And they'd start saying dinosaur, animal, plants, flowers. And then humans were always last on the list. We weren't we weren't up there at the beginning. We weren't like in the middle of it. It got to the point where I would have a joke with the beings, because I'd be like, oh, come on, we get to the humans. And oh yeah, here we go, humans at the end. Because they made a real, we think we're all that. We think we've got it sussed, we're all that. We're at this point in society where we're this and we're that. And really, that's how they're looking at it. Like, I don't think so. You humans to the beings are like a flower. It's been created. It gets nurtured, it gets watered, but effectively it's a creation, like no different from a plant or flower. And it's us that have put our stamp on to say how brilliant we all are, and and things like that. But again, it's all part of the creation. There's not a problem with it. There's no right or wrong. It's like, it's just part of the story, but it will get to the point of the story where we'll change and look back at this story and think, okay, now we know why we changed. So
you mentioned the beings coming with more interaction in the future. Did they describe, because if they're not like the human form or the form that they can take whatever form they want. Have they described how this interaction, how they're going to come? Are they going to come through consciousness, or how are they going to, what's this new interaction?
I know they're going to be of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, because they said that. So they're going to be the same core building blocks as humans when they show. But I didn't ask them. I might ask them that. I might ask them what form they're going to take. I didn't ask them that. I had a form of humans, what humans were going to take. And I just thought that in the future, we won't eat so much. We're going to get our energy from other. They gave me that picture. They gave me the picture of what we will look like, but not so much them. That's quite an interesting one.
There's a manifestation you might want to talk about as well, the idea of manifestation, because one of the theories that's out there now is the idea that whatever alien you see is based upon your belief system. So if you're in fear, you're going to see a gray. If you've got a very high energy level, you're going to see a reptilian. If you're very spiritual, you're going to see an etheric being, and that the being will appear as whatever you want it to appear, so as not to frighten you, or so you can establish it. And so talk a little bit about manifestation, where this idea that we are creating the world around us, that we are, because people play this victim thing that, you know, we're objects in space, and there's nothing between us, and there's time and space and stuff like that. And this idea that, go ahead.
It goes back to the whole pinpoint of this. If you can get your head around this is an illusion and everything is in consciousness. Yeah. So, and that is a big thing to get people's head around. But if you can get into that, then everything else becomes so much more fluid. You can see, because they made a point of saying that when they're going to be having more experiences, definitely with more humans, because that's part of the shift of what's coming. So and I don't know I actually don't know how you manifest, because I don't know. I've never think, oh, I'm going to manifest this, or I don't know how that even works.
But aren't you manifesting all the time? Aren't you manifesting all the time? If it's a creation of consciousness, there's no out there. You are the one that's
it's the right. So the word is the same as I would say you're living your reality. It's the same sort of thing. But so where I think manifest comes in, I think if I was to say, oh, I'm going to manifest, I think, all right, I'm going to really think on this, and it's going to come in, and it's going to come in, and it's going to come in. And that could be the place, but I'm more to the point where I think it's already going to happen anyway. And you manifesting it is part of the program for it to happen. It's all part of that. There is no separation in it. So the beings were saying that you are always in the now. So this will maybe, I don't know if this answers the question or not, but they said you live every moment in the now, and that is your only truth. That is what is happening to you right now is your only truth. So when we are saying things like, I'm going to say, oh, I'm going to manifest this, or I'm going to manifest that, is it manifesting? Because it's already within me, or am I just walking the walk that I'm unaware of? I don't know. See, because I'm of a different. It's already stamped what's going to happen. That's where I'm coming from.
I think that's true. So Nicole has a little 5-year-old boy who's always very thinking about how this works. What kind of message would you give to a little 5-year-old about the basics of reality? Because what we're talking about, and people are at whatever level, so you know what it's like. You'll talk to people and you'll see their eyes roll back, and it's like, you know, quit talking, because you can tell they're not figuring it out. And I've actually had 2 interviews now and these are people who are quite aware of how the thing works. And they'll go, let me ask you a question, and don't say everything is consciousness. And then they ask the question, I say, everything is consciousness.
But that is the answer.
But people don't want to hear that. They just say, but leave the consciousness aside, and they explain this. And I've had two interviews now where they actually said that. And don't say everything is consciousness. You keep saying everything is consciousness.
It's really hard.
What would you say to a little 5-year-old starting out at life? What's important?
He's 6 now, Grant. So you forgot he had a birthday. He's 6 now.
Oh, he's 6 now. Okay.
Yep. So my little Tion's 7, and I don't really. they're all completely different children, and they're going to, so what I say to him really makes no difference. I'm just a little extra. It's really what he and his mum interact will be different. I mean, I would just say to a child, just enjoy everything, and don't put any boundaries, don't label and don't boundary. But that's not him that's doing that ever. It will only be coming at him from outside. He won't know his labels or his boundaries. It will be infinite. He will only have labels and boundaries put onto him from outside. So I would let anything flow that comes. I've seen him, he's very intuitive, and he's a little inventor. So, but what you have to realize is he's an individual being on his own. You gave birth to him, but he is an energy that's come in now to experience Earth and this reality the same way as you did. And it's hard for a mum. It's hard to have that connection with a child. It's even hard with a grandchild, because your nurturing instinct far weighs anything else to protect. But to give you a little secret, Nicole, this might be something you might find interesting, because I certainly did. The beings spoke about a month ago, and they referred it to me in reflection to my daughter and my grandchildren. And they more or less said to me that I'm wasting my time saying things like, don't do that, don't jump over there, mind what you're doing there, try doing this. And they went, it really makes no difference what you say to your children. Their contract is set, and their connection to oneness is as strong as yours, and they're already doing their thing. So don't worry about it. They basically said, don't worry about it. Don't give them advice. Just let them be, and let them be, and let them do. Because they said, it doesn't matter what you say. What they're going to do in their contract is what they're going to do in their contract. Yeah. And it just made me laugh, because they gave me the vision of me sort of every time my grandson's at the top of a tree going, German, don't do that, run down this. And it doesn't really matter what I say, because he is actually going to do what he's going to do. If I tell him to get down from the tree, he doesn't get down from the tree. He climbs over or up or next door. And that's a lesson for me at the moment, still now. Every time I go to say something, or I try to, advice, like you say, I think, okay, if I don't give the advice, what's the outcome going to be? Is it going to be the same outcome? Because he's on his own little journey anyway. So, yeah. Well, he's not very good at giving advice to little ones. I'd rather speak to Nicole and say, you do you, Mum, because you know him.
Oh, I've learned and it's hard to practice, but I've learned it's best if I just stay out of his way. I mean, there's things that drive me crazy. Like right now I have a box invention taking up half my dining room, and, every table is covered with his experiments, but whatever. So
he's living his contract.
Right. He's
living his contract. And that contract that being said is, they said there's a cord that they said you humans think when a child is born and you cut the cord, you think that's it, you're cutting the cord, but that cord never gets cut. They said that as soon as that child is conceived, it's conscious, and that consciousness might only want to experience the energy of being in a womb, because they said that sometimes an energy will only want to experience the womb, or the mother might give birth, and the energy might choose to pass away, and that will be for all different reasons. They said that might be because it just wanted to experience the womb, it wanted to experience the mother's that connection through the womb, through the mother. There's various, but they made it very point of fact that is its own entity, that energy is growing as its own entity. And when you can step back and look at them like that, it does give you a slightly different perspective, because your perspective, as I say, is to come in and think, no, I protect, I look after, and it's this. Right. And they're basically saying, step back and let them be them. But it's hard in a society where we have strict labeling, where they're being put into boxes where they're like this, or they're like that, or like this, or like that. That will change, because until that changes, there can't be any growth to where they want us to go. So, but in our reality today, as we are today, those realities, I've been told, are already starting to take place. So we have, I don't know about where you are, but over in the UK, we're getting not off-gridders, but people that are choosing to put money together, buy land, and they are teaching their children differently. They're bringing up their kids differently, and so I know it's already happening, and it's in mine. But the beings actually word for word said to me that my children's children, so my grandchildren, will have a different reality from mine. And they said there's going to be a choice coming that you don't have now. And they said, and it will be a time of love and sharing. Wow. So your son is the same age as my grandchildren. So 20, 30 years from now, they're going to have a different experience. And that gives me a lot of hope, because I just think I can't see where it's going for them. And well, I couldn't see. But now I think, okay, so there is a lot of shifting and moving at the moment. It's all energy. Energy is constantly shifting and moving. And but it's for something that I can look at and think my grandchildren are going to have something we don't have. I don't even know what it is. I don't know what it is.
And whatever it is,
it's going to be something that's good.
And whatever it is, whether it's good or bad, I mean, it's like children in Calcutta who are living in total poverty or in refugee camps still have the experience. They chose to have the experience. They're in that experience. And so we always put it, we want our kids to have lots of stuff and big houses and have a good time when we should have the experience, which leads to the question, if we're not giving advice, if you ask the beings, and maybe you're part of this, is why are the beings interacting with people if it's all just supposed to flow the way it's supposed to flow? Is this part of their creation? Why are they interacting? Why are they, say, interfering and talking to people and putting these ideas into people? Are they changing things, or is this part of the contract? Or have you asked them about this?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. But it goes back to when they said that, they just said it's time. They said it was time that they said that people, our energy, our soul, if you like the old word soul, has had enough of it. We're just going through the motions now. Yeah. And they said it's been recycled, it's regenerated, it's constantly moved around. What they seem to have done, like you're saying, is that, because I asked the same thing, if you're in control of it, why have you allowed it to get like this? Why? But that's bottomly what you're saying, isn't it? Why have we been allowed, if the beings are in control of it all, why have we been allowed to get to this state like we have?
Or why are they giving us advice? Why? What's the point of them giving us advice if we sort of let everything be as it's going to unfold? Everybody's got their contract. Why are they coming into our contract?
I think it's just to give us the same difference. It is the same thing, because I asked the same thing. Why is that happening? And so far, all I've got is this. It's meant to be in this bigger picture, and that we've all had to. It's like the last remnants of a play that we've all actors have decided to just, this is the last go of it. We're going to give it a last light shot. We're all in it, but we all know the next play is going to be completely different. Yeah. But because that's the only way, I don't know if I've got a proper infinitive answer to you from that. I'll think about it and go back with that, because
you can ask them. I would be interested. The way I sort of looked at it was that we all made the play, and the play involves you saying, okay, you beings come in and you give me this material and we give this material, and it's all part of the play. Or as Shakespeare said, all the world's a stage, all the men and women, beings and aliens are all but actors. They have their entrances and exits, and each man plays many roles. So this may be all prearranged, that you said, okay, you play the beings and you come in as these beings, and you talk to Zoe and me, and we're going to put this out, and it's all part of the play.
Right. How did I put it? We're all floating up there in soul land. One of us decides to go be an ET. The other of us decides to go be a human. And we're like, yeah, let's get together. It'll be really funny.
Oh, I did ask them that. I asked them what happens. I actually asked them a question on that. I said, do we come back? When we pass, do we come back to this dimension every time? Or do we go to other dimensions? What do we do? Where do we go? And they laughed at that, and they just said, they went, if you want to, if you choose to. And he said, it depends what the energy wants to experience. But this is just for this one. But there are many others for other ones. But they thought that was a funny question. But to me, I thought that was a very serious question. I was like, they used to laugh a lot at me. And I used to think, oh, like, this is quite genuine. But they used to find it, well, I'm not saying they used to. I'm sure they still do find it. They find it quite they had an interest, because even though they've all been with us, I mean, it's evolved. That's what I'm saying. The conversation evolved, because at the beginning, I felt quite separated. It would be, why do humans do this? Why do you think humans do that? Why do you think humans do this? And I remember thinking, oh, you know, you're up there looking down at us down here. It kind of felt like that. But as the relationship evolved and the conversations got slightly deeper and deeper and deeper, I could see that there was no separation as such like that, and that there is not this them and us as we think it is. And the other thing is, it's a big subject. No one I know that really talks about this, really. I mean, as much as I talk about it with people on the interviews, there's very small pockets, as I said, that I can actually talk freely like this too, without switching off. Or now I'm getting quite a lot of resilience. Before, I think I was in such this state that no one could tell me that hadn't happened to me. I would have been like, what? That's happening to me now? What are you talking about? They're right here. So, but I've calmed down from that now, and I feel that as the beings are, as if I say, as I sit here now, they're talking with you, they're with Grant. I don't look at anybody now and don't think that they are interacting with a being all the time.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just, it's big.
We have a very famous Frenchman friend who calls them the Invisibles. And I think that may be why he refers to them as such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're here all the time, and he knows they're interacting all the time. We just don't see them. But some of us do and some of us don't. I mean, my friends still ask me, why you? Why do you think it was you? And but it's not why me, because I'm this end of it, receiving it now. But at some point I hadn't got here. And that's when I made all these decisions. Yeah. You know, the only thing I can relax, I just think you know, at the beginning, I just remember thinking, oh God, I hope people don't think I've lost it. You know, you know, because it came from nowhere with me, literally from nowhere. And one minute I was talking about normal things. The next thing I'm talking about alien beings and multi-dimensions, and there is no such thing as time. And oh, that's what I meant to say to you, Nicole. Yeah. So why I said to you about that there's no planets and where they come from is that one of the questions that was asked to them was, is the world round or flat? And they said the world has no shape. They said, you look up, it will keep going. And if you look down, it will keep going. It's an illusion. And that was quite early on, but that was a big one for me. And then they went deeper and deeper to the point where that's when I started to say to people, there's no planets. There is a planet in your reality if you're meant to see a planet, you know. And then I remember reading recently something, and I'm not a professor by any means, and I can just about even pronounce the words quantum physics. But I remember reading a bit about that, and I remember them saying that it was an argument that said, if you don't see it happening, does it happen? And it really struck a chord with me because of the beings being around. And I thought, I understand that. I actually understand that reasoning, that if you don't see it happening and it's not happening to you, is it happening? Yeah. And that is something that I try and talk about with my girlfriends, but they don't get that yet. But that is something I discuss with the beings and have a full-blown conversation about it, because I understand what that means, because we are all in our realities going out. So there's nothing really external to us. We're making it all up as we go along.
That was actually a big debate in the quantum physics with Einstein going up against Bohr, this idea that nothing comes into reality unless it's observed. And that's when Einstein said, no, I'd like to know the moon is behind me when I'm not looking. And he just couldn't accept this idea that you know,
it's a big leap to say, well, we're telling people everything's conscious. That's all I say. Well, anything's capable of, because it's all in consciousness. So that's when they said about how we're going to view numbers in the future. And they think it's funny that we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. They said any number over 0, 1 doesn't need to be, because it's part of, it can be included into the equation of 0, 1. And I mean, they said that to me, and I don't know why they said that to me, because I said, why they told me that, I don't know, because it doesn't go really very far further than me, because I don't know what they're talking about. And I went, okay, that's interesting, and put it somewhere, because it was nothing I could elaborate on. I couldn't go into it any deeper because I didn't understand what questions to ask on it. So they said things to me that I even think I wasn't even you know, the conversation, but then saying that the conversations that we're having, I would have okayed before we got here. So, you know,
Did
at
you,
some stage it will come up.
let's get to the when Sage came to me about the book thing where the beings said they wanted a book. Have they told you what your contract is, what you're supposed to do? Because they said they wanted this book. Do you still think they want a book out?
You know what?
Because I looked at the idea that you seem to be unpicked because of your dyslexia, that you were doing the drawings. So you didn't have the words, but you had the drawings, and you were drawing all this stuff out as if you, and if you're going to do a book, you'd need the drawings, you'd need your drawings. Do you think they want a book? Do you think they want this out? And I think that things have changed. There's just a book that's been released in the United States called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. I could not believe it. This is the high-level guy that ran the UFO program for the US government, and they went to consciousness. I could not believe it. I even put a posting on Facebook, and I said, I put the cover of the book, and I said, all the the days of the consciousness dividers are coming to an end. And when you see the high level government, and they don't really know yet, they're using the word, they know there's some sort of consciousness thing involved. And they're still into the technology and can we build and get these evil aliens and all this kind of stuff. But they do admit, and so you see that change taking place, that the major people inside the government are saying there's this consciousness element to this thing. We don't understand it. So I think we are making the change. So that's my question to you is what do you think they want done? What do you think that we can do, you and I? Are we supposed to do anything or just let it go? Because they must have, you must be part of something that's to be given to the world to shift this consciousness, because you can see it coming, that as they call it, the change is taking place. You and I are probably part of this change. So what do they want us to do?
I didn't know about that conversation until a little while ago, because I didn't ask, because that was a conversation between you and the beings, and it was a private conversation between you guys. So it was only, I think I asked Zoe about it, and she went, I can't remember. She couldn't remember most of the conversation she had with you. And then she went, I do remember them saying something about a book. And that's about as far as I got with it. Yeah. And then it wasn't until when you said to me, oh, writing a book, da-di-da-di-da-di-da. And I thought, okay, so the beings must have said something about a book. I wrote all the pictures down, because of my dyslexia. But to be fair, I also wrote down, but I liked what you said when you gave me advice, where you said, maybe just write the questions and the answers. Yeah. Because I was getting lost in the fluff. Because, you know, all the fluff, which is on the 17th and they came to see me and that is all fluff to me, because it's all my reality. That makes no difference. I could have been whatever. Yeah, because I was thinking that the core is the actual questions and answers. Yeah, because I could think you could actually do something where you have your drawings, but you do the main things, like the thing about is there an Earth? Is the Earth round? Yeah, question number one. And you put the answer, time and space, aliens. You have like 100 questions that people would ask, and then you put the answer to it.
You did your big four: no death, all an illusion, it's multidimensional, and no time. Like that's pretty good right there. And it's all conscious. And and everything dwells within consciousness. But I did one on that. There are some fundamental building blocks. Yeah, you're right. I tried to do the building blocks last night. I thought I was going to draw a picture of them. I started drawing them because they kept coming through building blocks. You've got the foundation, and even when I was speaking to Zoe, actually, she said to me the other day, the beings are going to notch everything up a bit. It's all very well talking about it, but people aren't doing anything about it. They're just talking about it. And I said to her, we're getting our heads around it. We're getting our heads around it, and there is movers and grooves, and I was just a bit lost. I didn't know really, you know, it's been overwhelming, and it's taken this long for me to get my feet on the ground, to literally not wake up every day and think, oh my God, I'm talking to beings, and like that went on for literally 3.5. And I try and explain that to people, and I think just imagine you going through it. Just one day you're doing your normal day, and the next minute you're speaking to these beings that effectively would be called aliens, because that's what we used to call them before. They've been called angels, and now they're talking to you, and they're telling you all these things. Can you get it's taken me like this length of time to get my head around that, and get back to the fact that I'm still a mum, I'm still a grandmother, I still have friends that
the other thing I've realized is that had I known how isolating this would have been, I probably wouldn't have said nothing in the first place. Because when I first started talking, I was in this etheria of I'm with beings, I'm talking about it. Everybody needs to know this. Everybody needs to know there are beings here. It's not what we think it is. It's this, it's, you know. And then as the time got on and on and on and on, and I started to get, you know, talking to people that I'm thinking that are on my wavelength, and I'm looking at and talking to them, and I'm just getting this blank expression come down over their face. And I think, okay, so it's not for you. And then I'm looking around here, and I'm that, and then that, and that, and I'm thinking, God, it's a very lonely place. And had I known this, I might not have started, you know, I might not have been so free to constantly be talking about it, because it's not the norm. But when I was in it, it felt so normal. I felt like everybody knows about it, you know. But yeah, I'm definitely listening to what you're saying, Grant. You sent me a link which looks like it's a voice talk over thing, because you sent me one of those. You said try this, so I'm going to give that a shot of recording it, so I don't actually have to type it.
Because that's my thing is we have I help people publish books, and my company is called It's All Connected, which I stole off some moment. I didn't even know what it meant, and that's all connected. And when I had the conversation with the beings with Zoe, she talked about this thing, and I don't know if it happened to you, but this idea that they took her, 24 days in a row at 3 o'clock in the morning. She was going to school.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I've never told this story. The day after I had that conversation, I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I went, oh my God. So I went into the room and I meditated. Next morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, go in the other room. Really nothing was happening. I was in the room. It went on for a month and a half until I went on a trip in August. I went on a trip to actually we're near where Nicole lives in Illinois. It stopped. But for a month and a half, it was every day. I'd wake up and it would be totally wide awake. And I'd say, it must be 3 o'clock. And it'd be between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was looking and I'm going, I can't believe this is happening. I don't remember anything. There's one night I had a flow state where all the stuff was coming into my head. Otherwise, I don't know. But that's when I thought I must have something to do with this. And so think about that. I think this would be and it's when I tell the experiencers or people who've had stuff, it's not that you're going to convince anybody or make $1 million because you won't sell many books. It's just you put it into they put it into the world, and the people that are intended in their contract to read it will read it. But we have to put it out.
I think you're right, because the beings there's going to be lots of shaking and moving. There is. And they told us about fire and rain before we had all that going on in Europe. They said there's going to be fire, there's going to be rain. We've got a lot of it taped down. We've taped a lot of the meetings because there is so much information. You can't even take it all on board. Some of the stuff is just, I mean, they were talking about the living cell the other day, how what humans experience on the outside, they experience on the inside. And they were saying that the cells have a veil over them. But the veil is going to be lifted and the DNA is going to be interacting with the, I mean, there is so much, Grant. Sometimes I wish I lived in Canada. If I lived in Canada, I could have just come around and said to you, there you go. There you go. There's the pictures. That's all they've said. I've written it all down. There you go. But the volume, the actual thought of it always seems so overwhelming to me. And I just think, and it's when you came the other day and you went to me, all right, do this. Write 50 subjects. What did they talk about and what did they answer? Because I have got that. Because the questions they would ask, I would write down. So as soon as they'd ask the questions like, what do you think, because they'd always started off with, what do you humans think happens when, you know, what do they say? I read one of the comments today and it said, what do humans think happens if you can only love your own and no others? That was one of the things they said earlier on. And I thought it was all about family, but no, they're trying to get us to think outside of family. This is like the human race we're talking about. It can go big. Why would they be interacting with us if we can't even get on with our neighbors? You know, they say things like that. They said humans don't own anything. That's what they always say. You think, why do humans fight and things like that? You don't actually own anything.
That's what I say too.
It's
actually, Uh, Annette, it's actually pretty easy that if you get the 50 subjects, like the conversation we have today, Nicole's going to put up on our YouTube channel. I'm going to put it on my YouTube channel. And if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, there's 3 little dots. And if you click on the 3 little dots, it'll say open transcript. It actually will make this whole thing that we've had today will all be transcribed. And all you do is take the transcript out. So if you had the subjects, we go through the subject.
What's a transcript?
It's all written out. So
Oh,
everything that you say
everything's
today,
written out what we speak today.
yeah,
Yep.
it word for word, it'll be exactly what you said. My talking, you're talking. It makes an actual transcript. And it's a matter of
You'll
pulling the
have
transcript.
you'll have an audio file, a video file, and a transcript file.
But I don't have you, and I don't have Ron, and I sit in this computer, and it just looks like a monster going, "Rah," and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Click, 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 click.
It should, when we end and wrap up, it'll pull up on your screen and ask you to save it where you want to save it, like your computer.
But the transcript, you have to go to YouTube. Like YouTube will actually transcribes everything. So if you had like 50 subjects,
after
and we go through the subject number 1, and then you give the answer, subject number 2, the whole book is written. That's all you have to do is you put the photograph, you put your paintings or your little drawings in there, but you take the 50 subjects that you think that people would want to hear about, and we just ask you the question, and you answer the question, and we pull the transcript, and it's all written out. You don't have to do anything.
Get all my words in and my bits out,
So
my letters and things. I could do that. That would be quite easy, because it gets overwhelming until I'm actually and someone asks me a specific question.
Yeah,
but
and then you
I
get
can
a flow
sort
state.
of bring it in a bit.
Yeah, like the question would be, what do they say about death? And you would rattle on for 5 minutes, and that would be answer the question. Next question, what do they say about aliens? Are they aliens? And then you just talk, and it all gets transcribed. That's all you'd have to do. And because I see that's my sort of role, is this idea of it's all connected to get people to put this for your grandchildren, even your great grandchildren. Your children may not understand right now, but when this thing becomes known, they're going to go, and that was my great grandmother. Man, she knew what was going on. She was one of the people that knew us. and that's the thing, is you write it down for your children, just to record the fact that this was part of my trip, my experience, and it was a wonderful life. And this is what I learned. And I put out this book, because if you keep it to yourself, I keep it to myself.
No, I agree with you. And I think the reason why I think they're here now and they're showing now is because of the shift that's happening. We've had the coronavirus. There's going to be more things happening. There is going to be major things happening. And the beings are constantly saying to us now, even now, still now, to me and Zoe, it's an illusion. It's an experience. Don't keep grounded. Just keep grounded, keep grounded. Remember, it's an experience. It's an experience. And those fundamental bricks, like Nicole said, I think they've changed me to such a degree now where I don't look at death like other people look at death, and people think I'm cold. Like, it's not that I'm cold, it's not that I don't cry, because I still have loads of emotion. It's just that I see it completely different, deaths now. I don't see it as the end of anything, and I don't even see it as the beginning of anything. It's almost like it's like a change of scene on television. Like from one scene to the next scene. That's how it happens.
Yeah, you got to remember who you actually are. It's the illusion thing. You keep forgetting who you actually are. You actually think you're the player. You're the actor on the stage. You're not the actor on the stage. You're playing an actor on a stage. You're not. Exactly. You're not. And people, I make this joke now where we'll get across when we die, and then someone will say, "Oh, Annette, you win the Academy Award. You actually believed it. You actually believed you were Annette." And it's like, no. It's like we keep forgetting what's actually going on. And even you just mentioned now the COVID thing. I mean, one of the questions you have is, what do they say about the COVID? You just rattle for 5 minutes, and there's the answer to COVID. And it's so easy now with the tools with YouTube, where we can transcribe it without you having to do any typing or anything like that.
If you guys could help, I'm really up for that. I'm really up for that, because my point this side is I can talk, and I could even read what they said to you. It's actually me transferring into, I get lost when I've got to type, save it. I'm not. You know what? The other thing that I read something today, and I thought, goodness, I can't even believe they actually said that to us. They said to us that if we wanted, and I read it, I have to get the beginning of the sentence up, because I started to go into all my old messages today to see like the original ones, because I kept all of them. I saved, photoshopped them, everything. And I remember them saying, if you want, we'll enhance your dyslexia. I remember them saying that, and I think, enhance it? How are you going to enhance it? You know, because they describe dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, or, you know, any of those as gifts.
And that's
they
part
said
of,
that
that's
those
part of,
children are gifts, and you're labeling them, and they have a different thought pattern. Their connections are different,
Yeah.
their experiences are different, and they're going to bring so much to the table.
but that's almost like where I saw that you had been picked. I think Zoe is dyslexic as well, right?
Yeah, we're
So-
both dyslexic.
so
So are
that's
you,
what-
Grant.
Yeah. So
You're dyslexic, but you don't even know you're dyslexic. And that's what I love, people that are dyslexic and they don't know they are, because they think, I'm really imaginative, but I don't know why I am. And I'm really like this, but I don't know. It's because you're dyslexic, you know.
But that may be part of our contract, is that's why we're being given it, because they need that. You need somebody to draw the little drawings that can do that kind of stuff. And so we've all had this little play that we're going to get together and we're going to put this thing together and put this message out, and wherever it goes, but that was part of what we chose to do, and that it's kind of fun, and it sort of spells it out for people, because we have these conversations, they sort of go all over the place, whatever. But if it's a book where you have 75 chapters, question number one, questions, and it's all chapters, then people just go through the index and they say, oh, what do they say about death? And what do they say about COVID? What do they say about?
Yeah, I think
about
it needs
illusion?
to be like that.
Or that's when I asked, like, Will, ask Will, what do you want to ask the beings? And of course he said about aliens. I want to know about if they're aliens. And I want to know
is that his question? Is that
Yeah,
was
he had
his
a
question?
question.
He wants to know, are the beings aliens?
Yeah.
He wanted to know about the beings, for them to tell him about their technology. And then his third question was to describe their planet or where they're from.
Right, so you can tell him that they speak to him every night, and they will tell the technology that he's got, they will give to him, that's for sure. They have been called aliens, but as we go forward, they're going to be called beings, because we're going to see them as the alien not fitting. You're going to have to explain to him that alien is for something that's not been here, and they've been here for a long time, they just can't be seen.
Yes.
So that is, they are aliens, but now they've been called, they've had a press release and they've had an upgrade, and now they've revamped themselves as beings.
Yeah.
And
That is kind of true. I think if you followed pop star Demi Lovato, they announced that they're kind of offended by being called alien.
Oh, they are.
I know
That's
everybody's
what they
going
said.
crazy about
We're
that.
not
They're
the
like, how can
aliens
she
here,
say
you
that?
are.
Yeah.
They used to say they're not the aliens here, that humans are. They've
Yeah.
always been here. We're the
I
new
remember
ones.
that. I was trying to get the quote. I don't know if it was when I was talking to Zoe, but
It
the idea
was.
that's where they said, you know, if you want us to be ETs, we can be ETs and take you to our planet.
Yeah, we can be what
But
you
we've
want.
always been here. You're
Yeah.
the visitor. And when I
Yeah.
heard that, that's this idea about the possession, which is one of the questions. Do you actually own anything? Because that's where I actually tell people, you think that, you know, the airspace, it's our airspace and we're going to shoot them down there in airspace. Nobody owns anything. We're here to be caretakers, and we're the visitors, because that's what they told. I'm pretty sure they told me that. You're the visitor. We're here for 70 years and we think we own the place. You don't own anything. You're just a visitor here.
Yeah. We are visitors, and we're here for such a short period of time.
And that's, I think, where we got to get it across. Even if people don't read it, you have these little chapters that spell these things out, so that people, and they're not going to read the whole book. They're just going to read whatever question interests them.
Yeah, of course.
And it would help make this shift. So that may be what it is about, is your part of helping the shift take place, of getting people to go, oh, I didn't, you know, like awaken, where they suddenly realize that they already knew this already, and sort of awaken people up.
It's either a hit or miss, isn't it? That's what I say. It's either a hit or miss. It either resonates or it doesn't. And it's as simple as that. And when it does resonate, you're like sponges, though. That's how I find it. I said, once you've triggered that something, whatever it is, once it's been triggered in what field it's been in, you're like a sponge. Then you need to, it's almost like that self. Well, it is self, because it's inner self now thinking, well, this feels right. I want to hear more of this because this feels right. And that's what I feel. That's what it was like with me when the being started speaking to me. I started going, well, actually, that makes sense. That makes more sense than what I was told.
And even the thing where you had the time out, and I remember we used to have a joke in ufology, I've been in this for 46 years, where someone would quit, they'd say, that's it, I've had enough. I'm never going to touch UFOs again. And I always say the same thing. Don't worry, nobody quits. They'll be back. They may be gone for a couple of years, but they're coming back. Nobody.
Well, that
leaves.
goes back to what the being said, where you can't have a quit from yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Because it's your contract you're experiencing, so you can't quit from what you're going to see or experience, because you can't quit from yourself.
That's why I say this is extremely important, because I find it, the reason it appealed to me with the beings is because I had this download in 2017 with a lot of the same material that you're getting. So when I heard it, I went, hey, these guys know what they're talking about. You can call them whatever you want. And I'm going, we got to listen to these two women, because what these beings are saying is exactly what I think is going on. And whether I hallucinated it or had a download or whatever,
No,
it just resonated with me as like, this is important stuff that these beings are saying.
You've got to think of it as we're not our bodies.
Yeah.
This is it. You know, one of the fundamental blocks is we are not our bodies. It is just an avatar. It's an avatar to experience these things. So when you're talking, even as we're talking now, I'm looking at you thinking, but Grant's not even on the same reality as, you know, your plane of reality is going to be different from somebody you're talking about on the phone, or a relative or a friend. You know, we're all working at these different states of reality, although it gives the appearance that we're all in this like this.
Yeah.
So it's just wait, others will be coming up or going down, whatever it is. It's all like that, isn't it? I don't know. I don't want to sound judgmental, because I don't feel like that. I really do not feel like that. I really think that I'm just part of it. And I do get blown away by it every now and then, thinking, wow. Why have I, what am I meant to do? But I actually asked the beings once, I said, am I meant to, it was something to do with Zoe back in the early days. And I said, am I meant to be doing something to do with Zoe with this? I can't remember what it was. I think it was about, I can't remember. I'll look into it. But anyway, I remember the message, and the message came back. It said, no, you're here to love yourself. And that was in the early days of when I, you know, because I'm all thinking, well, we meant to be doing this, or we meant to be doing that. And they just, no. And the other thing they made it very clear is that you're never in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
You're always in the place at the right time. There is no wrong time.
That's why I say it's so much is what I've been, where I hallucinated. But you mentioned that one. What I say is, if reincarnation is a fact, or if you're going through experiences or whatever, you chose to be here at this time, and then in this place, in the middle of whatever mess you claim you're in, and maybe you're in the middle of this mess at this time in this space for a particular reason. And so the stuff that they're saying is exactly the same stuff that I'm saying, and that's why it resonates with me. And I'm going, oh, people should know about the beings. People should hear this story, even just for entertainment purposes, for people, and the people that are meant to hear it and read it will pick it up and help the shift or whatever is supposed to happen. Who knows what's going to happen, but I just thought
I just want to say one thing before we kind it to an end, because this is getting shouted at me now, about rainwater.
Oh yeah, that was one, the rainwater thing. Yeah,
the rainwater, because they're using the rainwater now for lots of different things. They're saying rainwater, and I remember last interview I did a picture, when we did our pictures, I read the comments on one of them. This is why I'm bringing it up. And I'd said use rainwater in the eyes for cataracts, and eat a little bit of seaweed. That's what the beings said. They said cataracts, it will clear cataracts. And I had said it a couple of times on a couple of interviews, but I read a couple of comments a little while, well, it was last year after I did one of the interviews with you, and somebody had wrote that they'd done it on their dog.
Wow.
Bless it, it was on their dog. The dog had cataracts. They started putting rainwater in the dog's eyes and giving them little square bits of seaweed, and they said after 2 weeks there was already a massive improvement.
Wow. I know somebody's
that was a little
dog has got
confirmation on
cataracts.
one of the interviews that I did last time, but I don't need to see that, because Zoe's had it done. My mum, her eyes have cleared. She, you know, I'm forever washing rainwater in my eyes, because they said that, I remember when I questioned it, they just said, remember they used to call themselves Tron back in the day. They didn't call themselves aliens. They didn't call themselves the beings. They called themselves Tron, which stood for carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, because they said that is what the four building blocks, including them, when they show will be.
Yeah.
So they used to say, just call us Tron. So I remember them saying Tron's water, or they wouldn't even call it water. I think they used to call it fluid. I mean, they called things like fluid, or anything that was watery. We called it water, coffee, tea. They would just call it fluid. So it was very, their languages were a lot quite shorter. But yeah, rainwater was a massive healer. They've, you know, and they're talking at the moment, they're reminding us that they were saying literally the other day, and they were saying October is a massive shift. There's lots of shifting going around in the month of October. They said there's lots of changing you don't realize because you've forgotten. But they said if you look to nature, what happens in and around this season in October, there are massive, and it's all to do with rebirth. And I thought that's interesting because we have Halloween in October. So is this a knowledge that we've forgotten? Is this something that's traipsed like an echo that's come with us now, but we've actually forgotten the essence of it?
Wow.
Yeah. So, and they came in October. They came to you in October.
Yeah. It's
massive. So it's
it's a-
interesting. I'm still getting
fascinating
amazed
story.
by loads of the stuff that they say. I find so fascinating.
Fascinating story. The only thing is, if you do a book, you have to have the picture of the beings on there, because it sort of drags people in, because it's so weird, these three little beings with no faces and no eyes and stuff like that. Because then people go, well, why don't they have faces and eyes? And that leads to the first question is you know, why they don't.
Actually, Zoe drew a picture the other day, and it was the first time she said it's very weird. She said the beings have got bigger and they're merged into one, which they hadn't done before.
Wow.
And she said they merged into one, and she drew a picture of it, and then they merged back. And that was interesting. But then Zoe's having her own experiences with the beings. We're both having the initial meet, set, information, there you go. And we come, and then we go, and then we come, and then we go. But we still get the same messages, even it's just bizarre. I mean, mind-boggling, but I love it. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very entertaining. I think it's very useful for people to listen to, and the people that need to see it will see it. And so hopefully we can do that. If you want to do that, we can.
I'm up for that, Grant. I need a little bit. Maybe Nicole can direct where we're going to go with it and how it's going to be, and I'm absolutely fine with that. I just need a little bit direction. I've never done it before, so you know.
And we'll get Will to ask some more questions, because you get the little. You can even have the little kids section, little kids questions, and his, because it's because if you put it all in one thing where it's all sort of organized by subjects, even I would be fascinated, because a lot of times, like I remember I had the one where people on the ETs, because I'm writing a book later on. It's called Extraterrestrial or Maybe Not, and one of the things I use is that quote from the beings. If you want us to be extraterrestrials, we can be extraterrestrials if you want. But no, we've always been here. And that's the whole thing where I say to people, if you actually think it's extraterrestrials, think again. You may have it wrong. It's a building block thing. And that it's a key thing that I picked up from the beings as well, is what I picked up, what I was given was the anomalies are caused by the facts that you've got things wrong. Not that you're missing something, but you've got your building blocks are wrong. And that's what I think the beings are doing, is they're correcting the building blocks. They're saying you got this wrong. The world, because we had 1492, the world is flat, the sun goes around the earth, we're at the center of the universe, all this kind of stuff. And the more information we got, the wider our perspective got, the more we realized, oh no, that's not how it works. And the beings, I think, are coming in with this new thing and saying, no, it doesn't work like this. No, it doesn't work like this. And people may dispute it, but even with you, when they first give you the idea, so that doesn't make any sense. And then you think about it and you go, yeah, that does make sense. Yeah. And so it's this matter of growing.
They described the sun, when they said there's no shape, they also said the sun and the moon and other stars, they're alive in this illusion, but you're not rotating around anything. They just sail in and out of dimensions. And what you experience as heat and things like that are just part of the sensation of the illusion of the illusion. Wow. But they said I've got a picture of that when they said that, because I've got a picture of a sun sailing in and out of these little boxes, because they said it's just, there's no, the point is that we have this motion at the moment of a start and a finish, that we live, we die, we live, it's always in this going this way, and they're coming in and saying no. That all those need to be out the window. There's no start, there's no finish. It goes on it's a constant swirl over infinity.
And I think a lot of
there's so I mean, even I like going through it, because after so much, I mean, what I'm bringing in these conversations now is a fraction
Yeah, yeah.
a fraction of what was discussed.
Yeah.
And it's made, but I've realized now there are major, these, as I said, these building blocks, that if you don't have these building blocks in place, there's no point talking about time being an illusion, or there's no history, because you're speaking to somebody at that level but they need this level, they need that foundation level before they can get to that level.
Yeah.
So maybe I think that's where that will come in.
Yeah, that's what they told me. You've got the wrong building blocks. You've got them all wrong. You think, in fact, they said to me, "You're an ignorant, arrogant little piece of fill in the blank. You think you understand how reality works, and you haven't got a clue. And the worst part about it is you don't realize you're an ignorant, arrogant little piece of fill in the blank, and you think you understand how reality works, and you haven't got a clue." And then they said, "Now tell me that's not true." And that's so you're getting the same sort of messages I'm getting.
Yeah. Because your higher being knows you and will put it to you the way you need to hear it in order for you to go, okay,
that's what people would tell me. They wouldn't swear. I said, I guarantee you they swear. I guarantee you. Because when you get very expressive, males or kids playing sports or whatever, you hear the swearing, and so there's a lot of it where I say, yeah, I can absolutely guarantee you.
But why would they not swear? Because they find language hilarious. They will use all of it.
And you'll understand it. You understand it because you use it yourself. So that's, I find this fascinating. I hope we can do this. I'll talk to Nicole and we'll set it up and we'll get some questions. You can go with your questions that you think that from your diagrams and stuff like that. And we'll get Will to get some questions and we'll maybe work on whatever, 50 or 60 questions and go through those. And if we need to do a second one, we'll get some more questions and we'll help you put it out and we'll help you spread it, because I think that may be part of what we're here to do, is to help you get this thing out.
Yeah, that'd be really good, because at the moment I've got it, but I have nothing. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
I've always felt like that. I've always felt like, well, why have you given it to me? I don't even know what to do with it. What do I do with it?
We're all a piece, and that's when it works best, is when we all bring our pieces to the table, I think. So yeah, we'll help you out. I know of a couple apps that we can even send you, which are like talk to text. So
but I would go with the YouTube. I think we'll just do a YouTube interview with her. We'll get to the questions, and then because I can show you YouTube, because that's how I did we did a book on triangles. I did it in 2.5 weeks, and all it was Nicole and I did 2 panels with a bunch of people who'd seen triangles. All I did was a YouTube channel, and I grabbed the transcripts and I put them in a book. It took 2.5 weeks to put the book together. And then you just stick in your little diagrams. The YouTube does it all for you. That's the technology in the shift has been provided for us to actually, where we don't have to transcribe anything. It's very simple to pull the transcript off, and it takes,
just have to edit a lot.
Well, not that much. I mean, it's actually pretty good. Yeah, you put the punctuation, but it's a lot faster than transcribing it or trying to learn a new app or whatever. It's all there. So let's go with that. I'll be in contact with you, or I'll let Nicole run it, because if I do it, it'll all be the wrong day and the wrong time, and I'll let Nicole run it.
We'll be okay. It's all timelessness, Grant. We've all experienced timelessness.
There's no time and we've got no age.
Yeah,
there is no time, there's no age.
Even in terms of time, I think we could do it in one weekend. We could do it 2 sessions of maybe 3 hours. 3 hours.
Quickly.
2 hours, 2 3-hour sessions, and I think the whole thing would be put together. It's just a matter of what questions do we want to ask that people would want to know about, and you know what they are. They're like time, space, aliens, isn't an illusion, physical world, all this kind of stuff. The stuff that you've done all the diagrams on and you've gone through.
Yeah.
All right, we all have our homework assignments now.
I'm excited.
Psychology 102. It's not 101. This is 102.
Yeah, not for the faint-hearted.
This was so much fun, Annette. It was so great finally,
and you
and being able to speak. It's so different when you see people's posts and you're like, yeah, they're into what I'm into. So this was wonderful for me. Thank you so much.
No worries. Enjoyed it. I do like speaking about the beings, because I don't get to speak about it so much now. So it's nice to be able to express myself freely.
Grant, she needs to get on the list for the Canadian rabbit hole sessions, and she can just join that pack of experiencers that talk this stuff till the mutilated cows come home. So
Oh God, please no.
That's my one UFO joke I got. So.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, guys.
We'll
Have a
talk to you
nice
later.
weekend.
Thanks for taking time.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.